My name is Dana Renga, and I teach Italian film at Ohio State University. And today I'm going to be talking about the film Nirvana, which was directed by Gabriele Salvatores and released in 1997. It was widely screened all over Europe and is now considered a cult classic. In '97, it won the Davide Donatello Award for Best Editing and was also nominated for a series of other awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Producer, and Best Screenplay. The director Salvatores is probably best known for his film Mediterraneo in 1991, which won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. And it chronicles a group of soldiers during World War II who are literally shipwrecked on a Greek island where they kind of take up residence, make friends, start families in an attempt to avoid the war that's surrounding them. He also received a lot of attention in 2003 when the film I'm Not Scared was released, which is a story of kind of an unlikely friendship between a poor southern boy with ties to the mafia and a northern rich Milanese boy. In these films and in the film Nirvana, the kind of theme of escape is very common, and you have characters who are trying to better their situations, get out of troubling experiences in which they find themselves. Nirvana is a kind of rare Italian film in its use of kind of first-rate editing and special effects. And Salvatore shot the film in Portello, which is an abandoned Alfa Romeo plant in Milan. It's visually stimulating and superb, rich in design, and you would never realize that this film was shot on a $10 million budget, which is basically peanuts when you're thinking of a film that relies pretty much 100% on special effects. The feature is also kind of unique in that it was the first Italian film ever to be launched with its own website, which now is commonplace, but back then was really cutting edge. It was worldwideweb.nirvana.it. Sadly, the site is now defunct. Another really striking feature about the film was that it also came out with its own kind of CD-ROM, which was a game called Nirvana, which is, what the whole film is based around. And all the viewers, when you would watch the film in theater, or today when you rent the film and watch it at home, the film begins with an ad for game, which is Nirvana, where the film ends, the game begins. So what Salvatore was doing at the time was really capitalizing on the techno climate that was exploding in most of Western culture at the end of the 1990s. And you kind of get, this is clear in the opening image of the film, which is kind of a heavily pixelated image of Lisa, who's Jimmy's girlfriend, who slowly kind of comes into focus. And so we immediately from the start, we were kind of immersed in this highly technologically laden world. Something also that's really unique about the film is the poster that that viewers would see when they were waiting in line for the film, that now when we buy the DVD is on the cover of the DVD, and also is the packaging for the game within the film, Nirvana, which is an image of the goddess, the tantric goddess Kali, who is the hypno-goddess associated with death and with destruction. She's considered the goddess of time and change, and her name also means ultimate reality. So immediately with the opening image of the poster for the film, we have this connection between Buddhist philosophy and virtual or ultimate reality, which are two of the themes that kind of pervade the whole film. So one of the things that Salvatores is very interested in are kind of the stakes. What are the stakes involved in questioning reality, which is what the film is doing throughout. So in this kind of extreme hyper-real environment, the characters within the film and the viewer are kind of put in a situation where we need to retrieve some sort of authenticity in a highly digitized, a highly technological, science-driven, industrial world. And this is why, of course, the realm of science fiction, the genre of science fiction, is kind of the perfect type of way to look at a lot of these questions, because what does science fiction do best? It explores alternate realities. And it allows us to speculate on kind of possible future worlds that might emerge out of the existence that we know. Okay, so science fiction has been defined as the improbable made possible. And in the genre of science fiction, we have future worlds where past and future are able to collide. And this type of science odyssey, or cyber odyssey, allows us to question what we know about the present and wonder what we're going to have in the future based on the science and the technology that's available to us now. So the film, consequently explores the limits of technology and suggests possible worlds and possible spaces that we might inhabit in the future. So, and what we can see kind of 6 years after the release of Nirvana is the explosion of the world of Second Life, which happened in 2003, which allows us to inhabit virtual worlds, to have buy virtual property, to exchange goods, to have jobs, to forge relationships in a completely virtual space. And so this is something that Salvatores definitely kind of foreshadows in his film. So within the large genre of science fiction, we have all of these subcategories, and Nirvana is definitely most akin to the genre of cyberpunk, specifically in its interest in a dystopic universe, in the internet, and in cyberspace. So cyberpunk films and cyberpunk works of literature frequently create parallel universes and possible worlds. And many cyberpunk films borrow heavily from the genre of film noir in their technique. And we see this in Nirvana, specifically in the use of extremely low-key lighting, very sharp contrast between dark and light, overly shadowed spaces. Most characters, when we see them for the majority of the film, I would say their faces are 80% in shadow. This allows us to never really kind of know what's going on in the film. As a viewer, we're constantly kind of trying to figure out where we are, which world we're inhabiting. Other techniques that allow us to become more and more, I would say, disoriented are these extreme angles. I mean, we're constantly seeing things from kind of extreme low angles. People are pushed off to the side of the frame. And this technique, coupled with a completely non-linear narrative, confuses us frequently. And for example, the film starts on Christmas Eve of 2005. Immediately, we jump back 2 days. We have a flashback to 3 days before Christmas in 2005. However, this kind of time-space continuum that's disrupted is even further thwarted by the presence of Lisa, who is Jimmy's girlfriend, who had abandoned him or left him about a year ago. And he's constantly reliving her kind of a last goodbye to him. And she enters into his consciousness. So we have these 3 different spaces that are constantly going back and forth. To make things even more confusing, we have 2 other kind of parallel worlds within this narrative. We have the world of the game, Nirvana, that is lived by Solo, the kind of hero of the game, who has, as we know, has recently acquired human consciousness and realizes that he is forever condemned to being killed off and then reborn, being killed off and then reborn. So we have his kind of narrative developing on one hand, and on the other hand, we have this kind of road movie that is taking off with Jimmy and his 2 friends and companions that he picks up in the towns of these kind of seedy, I would say multi-ethnic towns of Marrakesh and then Bombay City. He first meets Joystick, and then he meets Naima. And so you have these 2 worlds are constantly, they constantly bleed into each other, and we never are really sure where we are.